Welcome back to the Tough Cover Radio Show right here on Fox Sports The Gambler. And I am joined by one of my co-hosts and one of my favorite guests to have here on the Tough Cover Radio Show. We've got my guy Deibs, you can follow over on Twitter at Mr. Crockpot and check out everything he's doing on YouTube over on the Party on Broad podcast channel. Deibs, how we doing, man?
Doing well, man. A couple weeks away from the draft. It's almost Christmas.
Yeah, this is really Deibs especially. I grind in my own way all year with gambling on college football, and that's how I kind of start with the evaluation and finding guys. And we do a podcast, Deibs and I together during the year called Armchair Scouts that we're continuing right now with Shane Haff and Ryan Reese. But Deibs is grinding. The moment the NFL draft ends, Deibs will be grinding for next year's NFL draft. So he is an absolute machine, and he's the perfect guy to go to, especially early on when no one else is putting out those content in the summer and the fall about the upcoming draft. Deibs kills it more than anybody, I think, and Deibs does a great job in general with all things draft. So go and check him out. Let's just kind of go from each position group and talk thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs in the middle. And we'll highlight some guys as we go along, some storylines as we go, some of our favorite guys for Deibs. But quarterback, obviously, here in Philadelphia, we don't have a lot of need to talk about quarterback. But I think we're both pretty comfortably thumbs down on this class as a whole compared to kind of recent classes. But the question I'll ask you, I asked this to Shane last week. Cam Ward, he's going to go first overall. I think he's your QB1. Mm-hmm. But do you think that this is kind of a crazy reach for Tennessee? Should they be kind of considering other options and maybe taking best player available, figuring out quarterback in the future? I'm kind of more of the mindset that this might end up looking pretty kind of funny in a couple of years, looking at how they passed Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter, some of these other guys.
I fully agree. Yeah, that should be the pick. Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter, somewhere in that vein. What a bad year for a quarterback, a team that needs a quarterback, because I like Cam Ward. He will be a first-round pick, no doubt about it, and he will be the number one pick, no doubt about it. But if I put him on my big board, he's probably in my 30s. And Shedeur is much further down the line. So there's a hope that maybe Jackson Dart's sitting there when the Eagles are on the clock and how he can use that to trade back a little bit. But for Cam Ward, there are some things to get excited about. He's got a twitchy release. He's got good feel for pressure. He plays like a point guard. He's big, like Ben Roethlisberger, but he can improvise. On a dime, he kind of has a funky sidearm throw, but there are some question marks about him. His decision-making can be questionable at times. There's times when he throws some bad balls into the middle of the field. He needs a lot of coaching in that area. But in terms of alpha mentality, in terms of having a dynamic arm and enough mobility to make plays out of the pocket outside of structure, I think he's clearly number one for the quarterbacks.
And you mentioned Dart there, and he's been a fast riser. And I kind of look at Dart the exact same way we looked at Bo Nix last year, where he's a 50s to 60s type guy. Obviously, Bo Nix ended up going first round and playing really well last year. He landed in the perfect system, though. We'll see if Dart kind of gets as lucky as Bo Nix does. Where is Dart for you in terms of how far down past Shedeur or whoever you have as QB2? Where does Dart kind of land for you?
Sure. He will probably – there's a chance he goes first round. He'll probably be drafted day 2. He is a reach. He's a massive reach. He's more of a day 3 kind of guy in the big scheme of things. There's some promising physical skills. Like if you're an RPO offense, there are some things that might get you excited. He can extend plays. He can get some yards with his legs. He's got a smooth and quick release. Very good, underrated athlete, I think. Really fun player to watch during his time at Ole Miss. But those natural physical tools, someone's going to bet on those, and far too high.
Yeah, and I know I'll just save the question. Deibs does not like Jalen Milroe. Not a Jalen Milroe guy from what I remember.
Dude, so and to be fair, like I was a Jalen Milroe guy. I called him a first round pick this time a year ago,
Mm-hmm.
and I rooted for him. And I watched a lot of Alabama. I don't buy it whatsoever, and I was wrong before. I mean, I threw some shade at Bo Nix at this time last year's draft, and he looked great last year. So who knows? But in terms of Jalen Milroe, he needs a lot of work.
Yeah.
He's a guy that can throw a deep ball. He's obviously a great athlete, but when it comes to maneuvering against pressure, when it comes to hitting windows, finding guys in stride, and making good decisions with the ball, man, he's light years away. Light years.
Yeah. Let's move on to a good position here, and a position that might be the best position group in the class, to be honest. Maybe we can debate that with another one when we get to the last one. But running back, one of the stories of the draft, a great position group here, especially the top two guys, Ashton Genty, Omarion Hampton. And I think as draft people in general, we use the word generational too often, and I'm guilty of it myself. I think I've said it about guys who have panned out to be anything but generational at times. What I will say is, if there's any use of generational that I think does apply, it is to Ashton Genty. I
Okay.
think he's that special of a running back prospect. I guess what I'd ask you is kind of where he ranks with some of the top running back prospects of the last couple years, like Bijan Robinson. And is he the best running back in recent memory that you've kind of evaluated, or the highest guy that you'll have ranked in your big board?
He's right at that same tier. I think he's a lock for the top 10. I think he's a blue chip prospect, just as Bijan Robinson was. I mean, Bijan Robinson, when he came out, he was every bit a blue chip prospect. And you look at Ashton Genty, he's a bell cow, man. He is a throwback running back prospect, elite vision. There's not a lot of weaknesses with this guy. He's kind of your like traditional do it all Saquon Barkley kind of back that is decisive in his cuts. He's got strong feet, a lot of power, great vision, can manipulate defenders, can create, can make defenders miss, win between the tackles, outside the numbers. Like there's not a lot he can't do. And I think he's got upside as a receiver.
Oh, yeah.
To be untapped at the next level. So he's your 3 down back, and it's crazy. He's not in my top 10, which is nuts. But a lot of that's positional value.
Of course.
For me personally, it's what it is. But anyway, I think Ashton Genty's right there with Bijan.
Yeah, he's a guy who I am usually the guy who makes fun of running backs going high. I had Bijan in the 20s. I was not as high on Bijan as, a crazy generational prospect as others were. I'm crazy about Genty. Like he reminds me of LaDainian Tomlinson, which is not a comp that I would normally want to throw out there. He's one of the best players I've ever seen. So I just think he's special. But another guy who's got a lot of special traits is Omarion Hampton. And I think there's a chance. My bold prediction is Genty's gone before Jerry Jones can make the pick, and he goes, just give me Omarion Hampton, just give me that guy. He's good too. And I think that it's kind of a Jahmyr Gibbs thing where he ends up going way higher than we expect. How close is Hampton to Genty for you in your rankings, or how big of a gap is there?
There's a good gap. There's a decent gap. It's not. I mean, I think in terms of Ashton Genty, top 10, no doubt, in this draft. But I think Omarion Hampton will probably be drafted somewhere in the teens, late teens, early 20s. And he's a great prospect, man. Another guy that's more of a do-it-all back, load to bring down, great size, great contact balance, but light feet. Doesn't have elite breakneck long speed, but man, he's also got a weapon in the passing game. His tape is a lot of fun, and he'll probably be a first-round pick. He might not be the only. Him and Genty might not be the only first-round picks in this draft.
And that kind of segues right into this. The 2 Ohio State guys are probably running back 3 and 4. Maybe Caleb Johnson, or maybe some other people have something to say about that. But out of Travion and Quinshon Judkins, who do you prefer? Who do you think has the higher upside?
God, I hate this question. Because I love both. They're right in that same tier.
They're close
Uh,
to me.
I personally think, and call me crazy, that Travion Henderson could be the second running back off the board. I
Woo!
think he's that much of a complete prospect. I think he's underrated, just in terms of being a leader on and off the field. His explosiveness, teams always fall in love with that. He's a great receiver as well, just a home run hitter. And I think Travion Henderson, if I had to pick right now, I think is the better running back. That being said, Quinshon Judkins, great pass protector, can pick up blitzes. Another, just like Amarian and Ashton Genty, a complete running back prospect. More of a you can push the marker, get first downs. But I like Trevion quite a bit, and I think he's being slept on. I think he's a sleeper to get picked over Amarian Hampton.
And outside of that top five, those top two we mentioned, the two Ohio State guys and Caleb Johnson. Who's your favorite guy outside of that? That's probably maybe a day two guy, maybe even a day three guy. But who's your
Yeah,
favorite guy outside of those guys?
no doubt it's Bashal Tutin out of
Love
Virginia
him.
Tech. I think he was the winner at the combine. He exploded on the scene last year. It last 2 years, 25 rushing touchdowns, over 2,000 yards, man. At the combine, 4.38 40-yard dash. Then he had a 4.32 40-yard dash. I mean, he put up better numbers than Saquon Barkley and Jahmyr Gibbs in terms of measurables. A lot of people saw him as a day three guy heading into the combine, but I think he's a solid day two prospect. Has a bit of a way to go, but there's a lot to like about this guy. Great athlete. He's a bowling ball. He would be a really fun pick for the Birds if he sneaks somewhere on that day three range.
I'm riding hard for RJ Harvey,
He's great.
my guy from UCF. There's so many guys that
Oh,
it's ridiculous how many guys.
dude,
I mean, DJ Giddens, Dylan Sampson, Cam Scattervoo, Devin
there's so
Neal.
many.
So
Brashard Smith,
great.
a former wide receiver, great fit to kind of battle Will Shipley in that RB3 role. You could talk about
Jaden Blue.
Damian Martinez. I
Yep.
think he's got 3 down running back upside. There's a lot of dudes in this. Is, like you said, a generational class that we'll be talking day 3 on the draft party. And how are these guys still sitting here? I don't like. It's crazy.
So a position that I think I'll go thumbs in the middle. I think Deibs is going to go thumbs up though. Wide receiver. Where
Okay,
are we at on wide receiver?
I'm thumbs up. Yeah, thumbs up.
Because you love Trey Harris. That's your absolute guy. And I am so upset. I said this on our receivers show. We just did an Armchair Scouts. Everyone should go check out on the Eagles Pinpull Network. I thought I loved Trey Harris. I mocked him to I do these Twitter threads where I do mock drafts for every team, and every team that needed a receiver was getting Trey Harris in the second round. I mean, it wasn't even an option. Had him in my 20s in the rankings. I have him as a top second round prospect. And then Deibs sends his rankings in our group chat, and he put Trey Harris 8th overall. So I'm like, oh, man, now I look like a hater on Trey Harris, having him 28th. But I love the guy. He's my wide receiver, too, in this class. I don't understand how some guys are getting buzz over him. Why do you love Trey Harris so much?
Because I think he's just a complete prospect. He's a guy that can play inside and outside. He can create separation off the line. Great contested catch guy, can stretch a defense vertically. I think he's an underrated route runner. And you just look at the production. He's not the biggest guy. He's not the fastest guy. I just think in terms of probably being an elite wide receiver 2 in the NFL, I think he's got everything you're looking for.
Tet McMillan, super polarizing guy. I am really high on Tet McMillan. I think he's an elite receiver prospect, one of the best I've evaluated in a while. I think Marvin was better last year. To me, I think Odunze was a little better.
I love Odunze, man.
He's one of the 5 or so best prospects, I think, of the last 5 years at the wide receiver position for me. I just love, he's so prototypical, that size, that X receiver. There's not a lot of that in this draft in terms of the size. He reminds me of Drake London with more kind of burst, more ability to go get it. Where do you land on the Ted McMillan kind of debate? Because there's people who think, like me, I have him fourth overall. Like, I think he's a top five overall guy. Then there's people who think he shouldn't even go in the first round, like Steve Smith, the former Panthers receiver. Where are you at on Ted?
Again, I really like this wide receiver class, but it's filled with Z and slot kind of receivers. There's not a lot of pure X alpha dog number one receivers on the outside like Tech McMillan. I mean, he's a catch point monster. I think he's 10 to 15 pounds away from being a Mike Evans clone. I think he could have done even more in 2024 if it wasn't for Arizona being a complete mess. But obviously a guy that's going to dominate in the red zone, dominate against smaller corners, great size, breakaway speed, elite ball tracking, catch radius, measurables, can win vertically. I mean, there's so much to like about him. He's currently my number 4 prospect overall on my big board, and a blue chip guy all the way.
Two guys that I'm not as in love with as the general consensus out there at the wide receiver position is Matthew Golden and Luther Burden. I think you're a little bit higher on them than me, but I don't know if you have first round grades on them. Kind of sell me on why these are two guys that should go up in that first round and kind of to these. I feel like a lot of these playoff teams at the end do have some wide receiver needs. The Chiefs, some other teams out there, the Bills. Is why are Luther Burden and Matthew Golden? I mean, they might not even be there at that point, but why are they worthy of being first round picks for you?
Luther Burden, think Deshaun Jackson, just an elite playmaker with the ball in his hands. Did not put up consistent production in 2024. And he came into last season as a top 10 prospect. He's a guy that can create separation. He's a guy that you might need to, move around a little bit on offense in the NFL. Might struggle against press, against bigger corners, but he's a home run threat, and he's a guy that can take it to the house any moment. I think his best football is in front of him. And then Matthew Golden. I mean, I think of Devontae Smith. The guy's tape is downright silly. I mean, his route running is crisp. He can make defensive backs look ridiculous. He can stretch a defense, hit you in the middle of the field. He's kind of been the guy that has blown up ever since, I'd say, the college football playoff. Kind of came out of nowhere. I watched a lot of Texas, and I kept waiting for Isaiah Bond to, blow me away. I kept waiting for Gunnar Helm to blow me away. Jaden Blue, blow me away. Quinn Ewers, it wasn't any of those guys on offense. It was Matthew Golden who made ridiculous catches after ridiculous catches and sold me with his route running. I think he's a total prospect. I think there's a chance. I think there is a small chance he's the first receiver off the board after Ted.
There's a chance he goes over Ted. Well, I don't think it'll happen, but there's a chance someone falls in love with Golden. I think Golden – it makes a lot of sense to Denver at 20. That's not the pick I would make. I'd rather than take like a Trey Harris or an Egbuka. But I could see Sean Payton falling for that type of guy. Moving on to tight end, a position group that I am firmly thumbs down. Thumbs down on the tight ends. I'm out. But I love the top 2. I do love the top 2. I love Tyler Warren, and I love Colston Loveland. I have Warren 7. I have Loveland 12. I don't think either of those guys are nearly going to be even close to available when it comes to the Eagles pick at 32. Obviously, a lot of controversy surrounding Dallas Goedert. Does not seem like he's going to be here. Not great poker by Nick Sirianni in the media there, I felt like. But a lot of talk about that kind of next tier of guys, especially I'm hearing a lot of Elijah Arroyo, a lot of Mason Taylor. A lot of people connecting those dots. Obviously, there's Harold Fannin out there. There is Gunnar Helm, a couple guys I'm forgetting. But for me, and this is kind of my bold take here, and people aren't going to like this because I think Mason Taylor and Arroyo probably both go in the top 50. I don't have a tight end outside of Warren and Loveland in my top 85. So there's a lot of buzz. I heard Arroyo or Taylor at 32 to the Eagles today. How would you react to that, and where are you at on this tight end class outside of Warren and Loveland?
It's been disappointing. As a guy that I was very pro tight end, coming into the Senior Bowl and the Combine, and the depth has kind of just the buzz has just kind of fallen off. Obviously, I'm a big Tyler Warren guy. I think he's a top 10 prospect, just that tier underneath Brock Bowers. I think he's got it all. Not a great creator off the line of scrimmage, but I mean, he's the total package. I mean, I would love him in Midnight Green. Colston Loveland, I'm a big fan of. He didn't get a chance to kind of showcase his abilities last year due to that mess of a quarterback situation at Michigan. But a big receiver, more of a move tight end kind of dude. And my bold take is Mason Taylor's drafted over him. I think Mason Taylor has a chance to be the tight end 2 in this draft. I think in terms of inline tight ends, a guy that can block, a guy that can be a good receiver, I think Mason Taylor is a very good prospect. We didn't get to see him to his best abilities last year, but an elite level athlete, fluid mover. The most receiving yards he's had in a game was back in 2023. Mark, do you know how many yards that was?
How many?
88.
Yeah.
So the production does not meet the hype. But, man, I think he's a weapon. I think he's got true tight end 1 upside. A guy that I really like for the Eagles on that day 2 range is Gunnar Helm, because there's a lot of gadget guys, a lot of guys that can do a lot of different things as a receiver. Not a lot of tight ends that are great blockers. I think Gunnar Helm is one of those few that can be more of a tight end 2 kind of guy with a chance to be a tight end 1. But Gunnar Helm was one of them. Elijah Arroyo, great athlete, good blocker. I mean, he's coming from a system in Miami that was a power running style offense. So he's used to being, thrown in there on the line of scrimmage, blocking heads. But for me, at the end of the day, I would be shocked if Mason Taylor's not a Philadelphia Eagle sometime day 2.
Wow. I would really, I'm really hoping they just don't take a tight end and that
I'm with you. Bring back Dallas Goedert so we don't even have to have this conversation.
So frustrating. One thing I was thinking about today, it just popped in my head. If Dallas Goedert's traded, give me all the AJ Brown stock in fantasy. I'll be taking all the AJ Brown stock. That's going to open up some targets there. Let's move on here to a position group that I wanted to get to, because something Deibs and I might disagree on here. I think Deibs hates this O-line class. I can't stand it. I've talked myself into it a little bit more. I've got 4 first-round grades, and then I've got 9 second-round grades. So I've got 13 guys in my top 50 from O-linemen, and I've got 3 guys in the bottom half of my top 10. Deibs isn't as high. Deibs thinks that this is a lot of these tackles going to end up moving inside, but a guy that you do love, who I think is kind of firmly planted into the first round. Deibs does this once a year. He finds a guy who ends up like Graham Barton last year.
Oh, I know where you're going.
Fully ends up like being a top 20 lock. And it seems like that's Gray Zabel from North Dakota State. He's just outside of my first round. He's my number 29 overall player, a top second round pick. I think that's going to end up looking dumb potentially when he goes like 12th. But tell me why you love Zabel compared to
Man, he's such a great athlete. If there's like one position that would kind of shock me, especially in the first round, it would be offensive line, given how great Stoutland is at developing tackles with a lot of traits. And Gray Zabel has the goods, man. He's, he didn't do a lot of athletic testing, but he had a 36.5-inch vertical jump at the combine. That was the best mark of all offensive linemen. He's like 6'6". He's an old school grinder that fits kind of that, blue chip mentality or blue collar mentality on that Eagles offensive line. Great positional versatility. He's got extensive snaps at guards and tackle. Wherever position in the NFL, he can fill it. Negative wise, he's been called for a lot of penalties. He did decrease that a lot from 2023 to 2024. But a guy that can be an asset in any scheme. He probably could be that he could be that backup center. And to be honest, the Eagles don't even have a backup center right now, man. He could be a right guard. He could be a tackle. He could be whatever Howie wants him to be. And man, he would just be perfect to groom in that Jeff Stoutland University.
And then with the top couple guys, with a couple guys who I think are going to go in the top 10 here in Will Campbell and Armand Membu. Tell me why you think that they're kind of more likely to move inside and more likely to not be worth that top 10 pick.
I mean, we're going to be talking about wingspan all night during the draft watch party. That's the theme with a lot of these guys, and that's a big reason why I'm less high on this class compared to last year. We had Joe Ald and Fashanu and all these guys that I thought were elite level tackles. Membo, I think, is going to be a top 10 guy. I think he's the best tackle in this group. Has a chance to be the first offensive lineman off the board. I am not high on Will Campbell. He played pretty much all of his snaps at left tackle. But I think on the interior where he's working in a phone booth is his best path to, being a star at the next level. But you look at I like the depth in this class a lot more than the guys at the top. Guys like Tate Ratledge, just an elite athlete on the interior. A guy like Charles Grant, elite athleticism that could he's got a wrestler's background, by the way, Mark. He could start on the interior, work his way to the outside. A guy like Holland Pierce, elite measurables to be groomed to be a tackle of the future down the road. There's a lot of fun ones. So for me, another one, Ariante Ursary, another guy
I'm falling in love with him.
I mean, I'm not high on the class, but I think there is depth and quality in that depth there. I'm probably missing one, but yeah, Ariante Ursary is a guy that I think fits the Eagles really well. What they want to do as a heavy run scheme.
And I think he's a confirmed tackle in a class of a lot of tackles who might end up moving inside. Like, I think he's locked in. He's going to stick at tackle long term. And yeah, it's officially close to the draft because I always have about I feel like it's around 25 first round grades, usually not the 32. I mean, I think that's how most NFL teams are allegedly, but I don't ever have 32. But every year I have about 25. I'm steady with that, February through April. And we get to this point and I'm like, I do like Trey Harris a lot. I like Egbuka a lot. I like Gray Zabel a lot. I like Ariante Ursary a lot. These guys' first round grades, I'm going to try to stop myself. I'm capping my first round grades where I have it now. But Ursary is making me think twice. I really do think that guy's going to be worth a high pick and going to live up to that.
It's such a fascinating story what the Eagles do at 32. I mean, I've said this many times on our show. Like, there's not a lot of difference between like guys just outside of the top 10 all the way through 32, all the way into round 2. It's kind of depending on your scheme, what you want out of your prospects. It's all scheme fit. There's a lot of question marks about a lot of these guys. And there's a really good chance someone falls to Howie in 32 and they stay put and they get them. Or I think the strength in this draft is day 2. They trade back, load up and just move all around the board on day 2 and kind of get guys that fit what they're looking to do. So, it's going to be interesting to see how this board falls. I still always believe in like best player available at 32. Which will probably be D-line. I think the pattern we have seen so far, at least recently, is, I think there's going to be a major run on D tackle and edge between rounds 1 and 2. So it will definitely be in Howie's interest to jump on those two positions from the jump. But it is a really weird draft. And my rankings compared to like mass media could not be more different.
Yeah, it's scary when you have those rankings that are so different sometimes, but then you don't want to just do groupthink and go back to what everybody's thinking, because then what's the point of you evaluating it for yourself? So I always struggle with that. Like, I have Benjamin Morrison 11th overall. We're going to get to that. He might not go in the first round, and I might look pretty silly there. So, but let's talk about edge and D tackle. You just talked about it there, and I think we can kind of combo it a little bit there as just overall pass rushers and D line. There's three guys that I keep coming back to as my kind of dream scenario that one of these guys is falling and we make a move up to 24 or whatever the case may be. And it's James Pierce is the
Yeah.
top one for sure. Derek Harmon from Oregon and Walter Nolan from Ole Miss. Those are the three guys that I keep coming back to as guys that I think could be year one real difference makers for the Eagles at pick 32, or obviously moving up just a little bit. You have a ton of those picks on day three. Maybe that could help a little bit, could facilitate a deal. I those are the guys I keep coming back to as kind of the dream scenarios. Honestly, if you want to open up to beyond edge and D tackle, who am I missing?
Donovan Ezeraku, I think, would be a really good fit. I mean, he has some struggles on tape as a run defender, but as a pure pass rusher, a guy that can fit into that rotation, good length, good first step off the line of scrimmage. I think Ezeraku would be a guy that Howie would be all over. I think Kenneth Grant is another name that has some really good tape, pass rushing skills, good run defender. TJ Sanders, another guy that has a lot of traits. I think he's more of a second round pick.
Yeah, me too.
But I do think there's talent there. He just needs a lot of coaching, a lot of coaching. But you named the big ones. I mean, James Pierce Jr. is kind of falling. I don't think anybody has any idea where he's going to go. I could see him going in the top 10. I could see him falling out of the first round. There's some weird reports out there for whatever, believe whatever you want. But at least when on tape in college, he's dropped back in coverage a little bit. He's an elite athlete, kind of fits everything the Eagles want to do there. So he's a good one. And then there's a lot of guys in like round 2 and stuff. The guy that like I have been in and out, like 1 week I'm all in, the next week I'm all out, is Nick Scorton. Nick Scorton is like 6'3". He visited the Eagles recently. He took his picture with Brandon Graham and made Brandon Graham look pretty small, by the way. Interesting photo. But Nick Scorton is arguably right there with Shamar Stewart as like the biggest boomer bust pick in this draft. Not the most explosive guy. I personally think Nick Scorton will be more of a defensive tackle down the road. And you're hoping it all comes together. But, man, Shamar Stewart is, I think, the most fun prospect in this group in terms of what the hell is he. His athleticism is off the charts. One of the most athletic defensive linemen we've seen in a while. Right? I mean, is he a Fletcher Cox? Is he an edge? I think if he were to come to the Philadelphia Eagles, he would be a defensive tackle like a Fletcher Cox. But, man, his tools are ridiculous. And we saw a recent mock that I think Daniel Jeremiah had him going to the Philadelphia Eagles. And that just – I would be – I don't know if I would be excited about that pick. I would be looking forward to that draft watch party though, because the reaction to that would be really interesting. I mean, he's got to be high on the list of one of the most elite traits you've ever seen in a defensive lineman prospect with no production.
And one name you didn't mention there, who is just outside of that tier of Pierce, Harmon, Nolan for me, is Princely. Princely Umanmaline out of Ole Miss. I have him as a first round guy, so I like him actually more than Scorton or Ezeraku or Green or Shamar or Michael. I really, really like Princely. That game he had against Georgia, he just terrorized them, and I feel like that lives rent free in my brain. Where are you at on him as kind of an Eagles fit?
Which one? Who's that?
Princely Uman.
Just a mold of clay. I mean, in terms of length, in terms of being a 3-down starter, I think he has all the tools. He has great production. It's just a matter of him putting it all together at the next level. There's a lot of guys like this. And just to circle back on Derek Harmon, who is without a doubt one of my favorite picks for the Eagles at 32. I mean, I don't think he would be a sexy pick, but I think he's the most realistic option to put on this defensive line, inside, outside, versatility. He can win one-on-ones. His hips are a little tight, but man, like I think he can do a lot of things that we saw from Milton Williams and fit with like Moro Jomo and Jordan Davis as just an amazing rotation next to Jalen Carter.
You said Derek Harmon might not be a sexy pick. Speak for yourself. I'd be hot and bothered. I'd be hot under the collar. I love Derek Harmon, so
He's
uh,
perfect.
I'd be in love with that pick. I think he's a top 15 guy for me. I have him 14.
Wow, cool.
I have him 14th overall, so I really, really like Harmon. And one last guy before we move on to linebacker. You mentioned, you didn't mention him, Walter Nolan, the other Ole Miss guy. He's right there with Harmon for me. There are a lot of rumors he's going to go 17 to Cincinnati, so I've actually kind of stopped thinking about him. I've become more of a James Pearson, Derek Harmon. That's my hope. But Walter Nolan, where are you at on him as an Eagles fit?
Dude, he's like my number 8 prospect overall.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, I'm super high on him. Definitely a bet high prospect. Another guy that's kind of like James Pierce Jr. Has been projected all over the place. A lot of variability with him. He needs to grow as a pass rusher. He has to develop counters, but you look at the base as a run defender. You look at his upside as a pass rusher under Vic Fangio. I think he's versatile to be a 3-tech. I think he can play in even fronts, odd fronts. I think he's got major upside. And with the future kind of uncertain with Jordan Davis, I think Walter Nolan with Derek Harmon are probably my 2 favorite scenarios.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think those are both Jalen Carter protectors as well. It keeps him kind of as a lead as he is right now and keeps teams from being able to triple team him and to take him out of the game. Linebacker, there's 2 guys, Jalen Walker and Geod Campbell, who I am a little bit lower on than consensus. I have both as high second round prospects, not as first round prospects. It seems like they're both, if not locks, pretty close to locks to go in the first round. What am I missing with both guys, especially Campbell? Because I think with Walker, I know what my problem is. I think he's a tweener in terms of I don't think he's good in coverage, and I don't necessarily know if he has the size to be an edge. So I know what my issues are with Walker, although great tape. Like there's a lot of tape out there that's definitely really impressive. With Campbell, what am I missing? Why should he go top 10, top 15?
I think I don't think he's going top 10, top 15.
Okay.
I think he's more in the 20s.
Oh, then I don't have a problem with that. I have him like 30 something.
Yeah. I think he's more in the 20s, if not probably high second round. It's really the traits. I mean, this guy blew up at the combine. His measurables were off the charts. He's got the Bama bloodline, and it's just really all about the traits. I mean, he's a guy that can cover tight ends. He's a guy that looks really good at the line of scrimmage. Just an athletic freak. Amazing arm length. Amazing speed. 6'3", 244 pounds. I think he's more of a day 2 guy. But it really wasn't until this combine that all of a sudden he was getting all this first round buzz.
Yeah, I've just seen a couple big names having like top 10 overall, and I think that's extreme for me. It's kind of where I'm at. I think linebackers a thumbs down probably overall compared to some of the past years for sure. But outside of those guys, who's your favorite third guy? For me, it's Danny Stutzman. I'm going to take a guess that for you, it's Carson Schlesinger. Am I right?
No.
Okay.
Wait, yes. Oh, I have them in the same tier. I think it's I think it's like Stutzman's like 48 and like Schlesinger is like 47. Like it's right there. Okay. And I think Chris Pooh Paul is right in that same tier.
I did not know his nickname was Pooh until Deibs told me. I thought he was just Chris Paul Jr., and I thought there was a lot of fun to be had with that, obviously, with there being a famous Chris Paul. There's even more fun to be had with Pooh Paul.
There's another guy that I've been mocking to the Eagles all the time, and he actually met with the Eagles, and wouldn't it surprise me if he's like a round 3 selection and kind of shocks some people, is Teddy Buchanan out of California. He's a guy that I think fits Vic Fangio's scheme really well. Again, great traits, 40-inch vert, 10.5 broad, 6'2", 233 pounds. He had the best vertical leap of all the linebackers that tested. Best vertical jump. Best vertical jump. And then you look at what he does. He's a great coverage linebacker. And I think he's one of the bigger sleeper prospects in this draft. So we're going to be talking a lot about him. He might be in my top 100. Teddy Buchanan, not a lot of love out there, but you heard it.
I like it. I like it. So let's get to what I teased that running back might be the best position group here. I think it's pretty clear, actually. It's defensive back. If you're combining corner and safety overall, it's definitely defensive back. And it might just be corner even if you take the safeties out. But how many defensive backs do you have as first-round grades? Because I've got nine first-round grades if we're counting corners and safeties, 6 corners and 3 safeties, depending. Di Barron's probably a corner, but 6 corners and 3 safeties for me.
A lot. Hold on. I'm still going, man.
And I'll just read them off to fill the air. Will Johnson, Travis Hunter, Benjamin Morrison, Xavier Watts, Malachi Starks, Nick Manwery, Darian Porter, Maxwell Hairston, and Jedi Barron. Those are my 9 first-round grades there for my defensive backs. And we're going to be doing our defensive back show this upcoming week on the Armchair Scouts. Everybody can check that out. How many did you end up with, and do you have any different ones than me?
I think I have more than you.
Wow.
Yeah. In terms of first-round grade, I think it's a sneaky position.
Oh, yeah.
Travis Hunter, obviously. Will Johnson is my number 1 prospect in the draft.
Same here.
Siobhan Revel Jr., great size, great athlete, recovering from injury, should be ready to go, but absolutely a stone-cold outside cornerback at the next level. Benjamin Morrison, first round. I think he's in my 20s. Jade Barron is the best nickel corner in this draft. I think he's potentially a top 10, top 15 guy. Trey Amos out of Miss is very solid as well. Then you get to another combine winner, Maxwell Hairston. Great size, great athlete.
Love him.
Great prospect there who could be a sneaky Eagles pick. Malachi Starks, my number 3 or 4 overall prospect. I love him. I've been a Malachi Starks guy for years. His tape last year isn't as good as it was in 2024 or 2023.
Yeah.
But he is a great center fielder. His tape is amazing. And I'm not going off that hill. Then you get to Nicky Manwery, an inside the box, elite athlete that is just a mold of clay. Someone's going to roll the dice on him and just say, whatever, let's see what we got in him.
Yep.
He's a guy that pops off tape on a really underrated South Carolina defense. You could go on and on about Xavier Watts. I love Xavier Watts, best ball hawk in this draft. But a guy that could be a sneaky, guy to watch is Kevin Winston out of Penn State, who also had an elite pro day that nobody talks about, was hurt basically all last year, was a first-round pick heading into last year, could be a sneaky round 2 selection.
For sure. So let me get you out of here on one final question. If I made you predict right now, Philadelphia Eagles, what happens on draft night? Give me either a trade down, trade up, stay in the same spot. Who they taking?
I think they stay put, number 32. I think. Can I give you my dream scenario?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, here we go. All right, so the Eagles will trade back. They trade back from 32 and get an extra, day 2 selection at number around 45. And there's a guy that we haven't even talked about is Braden Swinson out of LSU. He's an edge rusher. Great measurables. I love Braden Swinson, man. I think he's a terrific fit. I think he fits the Eagles scheme to a T. Amazing run defender. Has all the traits Howie will be looking for. I think they end up with Mason Taylor. I think that's a lock. I think in terms of inline tight ends, he's right there at the top of the list. And then
give me a top 80 guy on my list. Give me something.
And then I think they end up with Andrew Makuba.
I do like Makuba.
Andrew Makuba is a safety out of Texas. We didn't even talk about him, but he is a guy that fits the Eagles in terms of versatility. He's a guy that can play deep. He's a guy that can play the slot. I was shocked at his RES scores and testing at the combine because I thought his tape, just like Malachi Starks, was way better. But I think he is the versatile kind of chess piece, like a Cooper, DeJean, for them. So I like him a lot. And those are my guys, man. Outside of that, if they stay put at 32, Walter Nolan, Derek Harmon, those are great selections for the Birds. I think Donovan Ezeraku is really high on Howie's list. He probably goes top 20. Mike Green, throw him out the window. He's not on their big board. And I think corner is a sneaky day 2 selection for the Eagles as well. You look at what's available in Siobhan Ravel Jr., or you look at Benjamin Morrison or Maxwell Hairston. Those are all guys that fit the Eagles really well.
Yeah, for sure. Just while we were throwing out names, late DBs, a guy who I've fallen in love with over the process, Noel Williams from Cal, is a guy who he's ball hawk, just an absolute gamer. I love how he covers. I've become a big fan. He's 61 overall for me, but I could see him kind of rising up there. But that was great stuff there. I thought we'd end up going way longer than I thought on going through all the positions, but I think that was a nice little primer on all the position groups there for people maybe who are jumping into the draft with just a couple weeks to go. Everybody go and check out Deibs on Twitter at Mr. Crockpot. Check out our pod over at Armchair Scouts. Check out everything he's doing over at Party on Broad. Deibs, thanks so much for coming on, man.
Thanks for having me, man.
Anytime.